Welcome to another episode of Target Audience. I am your host, Kyle Biemeller, and today I am happy to welcome to the show the Director of Marketing and Sales at the American Massage Therapy Association, Jennifer Schaff. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
So I've actually been with the American Massage Therapy Association for almost 9 years. It'll be 9 years in February. So I started off as a program manager in marketing, and I worked exclusively with our student and school membership. We're a membership association. And then over the years, I went on to become the marketing manager and then the associate director and director. So my career has grown over time and over the last 9 years. Biggest thing that we have noticed that really is affecting our marketing and email marketing and digital marketing is really all of the privacy issues that are happening right now. So, the Apple privacy, it's affecting our email marketing, our open rates, all of our data. It's affecting current data, past data, trends. So that's probably the biggest industry update that's really we're seeing across the board. And I have a feeling that it's not, of course, going to stop with Apple. We're going to see it grow and expand, and it's going to be changing and evolving constantly. So just staying on top of that and adapting to it. One really cool one that we came across and was actually forwarded to me from a colleague was, do you remember the day when Facebook went down? When the world paused because Facebook went down? Mm-hmm. One of my colleagues received a text message, a very clever text message about, hey, Facebook's down, but we're still doing sales and we're still doing this. And it was this link, and they sent it out in a really timely fashion. And I think it just highlighted if you have the ability to be flexible and adaptable and change quickly and do that, it can be very powerful, because it really got his attention enough so that he sent it on to me. And I thought that was really fun because they took advantage of it. It was a very clever and fun text message. And I would be really interested to see what kind of click-through they got from that. I think it's cliche, but it applies directly to marketing in general, is about being willing to take measured risks and to always test, just never be satisfied with the status quo. And I think that that's something that for marketers, especially in this day and age, and digital marketers, it's really important. So much so to always be testing is one of the biggest things that I have learned, and that I pass down to my team members, is just because you tested it years ago, even a year or two ago, doesn't mean that it's applicable now. Keep retesting some of those trends or that creative, that content, always be testing it regularly. And even if you did it 2 years ago, maybe you need to retest it. Audiences change, the environment changes. And so that is something that I have taken with me and try to constantly stay on top of, and never just be satisfied with what is, because it's working and it's good enough. So that's always been a challenge, actually, trying to explain to people in general, because people don't realize it's marketing anymore. They just think that it's part of, for instance, probably the biggest one is Google search or Bing or any of the search engines. I feel like Facebook and Instagram, that's easy to explain. The pictures that you see that are saying click here, and that's what we do. But I feel like all the search engines, that's probably the more difficult one to explain, because not everybody realizes it's an ad, and not everybody realizes that that every piece of that ad has been put together purposefully to directly talk to you as an individual. So I try to explain to them as like, to your point, it's a billboard, but it's a billboard that is made specifically for you based on your habits and what the digital world knows about you. And then we start going down the scary path. And I think that's the part that terrifies the grandparents, is when you start going down the path of, we kind of know a lot about you. So then we use that information and we try and create these billboards that speak directly to you, because we kind of know what you're doing online. So that's kind of the creepy part of it. And you start to go down that path and they're like, I don't want to know. So But I will say my least favorite lingo is taking something offline. It's something that people say. And so when somebody, especially when you're in a group meeting in person and you're looking at somebody and they're saying, well, let's take this offline. And you're sitting there like, we are offline right now. This is offline. We're talking. But obviously it means, with not a full group around, but it's been something that drives me nuts all the time when people say that. But I'm guilty of it too. And I catch myself doing it. And I'm like, oh no, don't start doing that. I can tell you one that I use a lot is circle back, and then the funny part about it is, so, when COVID hit and everyone started working from home, and so you start working from home with your spouse or your partner, and I didn't realize how much jargon I used until my husband started repeating the jargon back to me and sort of saying it out loud in the background. And I was like, oh man, I really do sound like that, don't I? I would just say for distraction and inspiration, I am an outdoors person. So I love the national parks and I've been trying to visit all of the national parks. So I actually follow a lot of the National Park Foundation. There's a lot of hiker, I would say like all of it, because then our National Geographic, BBC Earth. So sometimes, like, especially when you've been indoors and you're in the thick of it and you just feel so engrossed in what you're doing in marketing and you just need a breath of fresh air, but maybe you can't get the breath of fresh air, actually following some of these Instagram or Facebook profiles that really highlights the outdoors and the beauty of what's around you, you can take a step back and it's actually really nice and refreshing. And that's kind of just kind of gives me the inspiration and gives me a pause before moving on to something else. I feel like it makes me sound old, but I rather handwrite them. I'm now I'm like feel like I'm dating myself, but going back to writing them. But I'm also a very I'm a firm believer in very short and concise emails. If you have an email that's like a novel, I sometimes I put that aside. I'm like, okay, I need to prep myself to read that one. I want bullet points. So it's so funny because we were actually having this conversation about last week with a group of us, and we were all like, well, yeah, The Office, that would be really entertaining. It would never get boring, especially like when you can take like an aside and talk to the camera and just air all your grievances. That would kind of be entertaining. Well, so funny is it's not what you're going to think it is. So I'm also a classical music person and I cannot listen. It's hard for me to listen to music that has lyrics when I'm working because I get way too distracted and I'm going to be off singing to myself and I'm not going to actually be working. So I actually listen to a lot of classical music or actually movie soundtracks. I love movie soundtracks. So if you've ever listened to some of like the Avengers, or if you listen to any of like the Man of Steel soundtrack. So if you get into that, and it's some pretty like pump up music. I mean, they're saving the world. So you get into that, it actually can get you going, and then you're not distracted by lyrics. Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.